Before you start this video, I would like you guys to hit that like button and share this video because it helps the viewership and it helps the algorithm. Also, if you've been missing out on daily videos, you're not receiving notifications, hit the bell button because I post very frequently. Sometimes people don't get notifications. And with that said, enjoy. The story I bring you tonight is of vain pursuit and tragedy. Our setting takes place in a small village in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. There was once this entrepreneur who was after great pursuits. This individual was never content with what he had. Our individual was one who was showered with love and showered with appreciation. In his quest for satisfaction, he found himself surrounded by those who did not necessarily have his interests in mind, but of their own interests and pursuits. So this entrepreneur meets a Wougan. I would say more of a mystic, because he wasn't just an individual that was tied to voodoo community. He was more of a mystic. He had his hands in everything. So this entrepreneur befriends him. He becomes his advisor. The entrepreneur went about his daily deeds with full assurance that his advisor would be the one to give him an upper hand in the things that he was doing. The entrepreneur was so confident, he was so glad, because in various seances, he was able to retrieve information that left him in awe, because this was information that only he knew. To him, this was the confirmation he needed. So as time goes on, this entrepreneur begins to make various accusations to those around him, accusing them of sorcery, accusing them of mismanagement of funds, mismanagement of his business. It became unbearable for many, because some of these people knew this individual for years. And it was as if this entrepreneur just became a different person. It got to the point where one day he was about to shoot his own brother, because his brother confronted him of the erroneous accusations that he was making. His brother even tried to warn him that the advisor that was advising him meant him no good. He wanted to inform his brother that his advisor had an agenda. But the entrepreneur chose not to take heed. So at one gathering, after this event occurred, his son reached out to him and said, "Maybe you should listen. Maybe you should take heed to what your brother says." The entrepreneur looked back at his son and told him to shut up. Within that moment, the entrepreneur went into silence. Nobody wants to feel as if they are a fool. Men have great egos. So for him, this was very off-putting because his own son told him that he was an heir. Or at least that's the way he perceived it. Time goes on. This entrepreneur is narrow in what he believes to the point where he began to fire people around him. As he began to progress in life, he began to realize certain things that his advisor were saying were not adding up. But because of his history with this individual, he turned a blind eye. One day, the advisor informed the entrepreneur that there was something that he needed to do. But of course, there was something that was required of the entrepreneur, and it was a great sum of money. The entrepreneur didn't look at it as anything because he was very wealthy and he could afford to keep his advisor on a payroll. So one day, the advisor tells the entrepreneur that he has to go to do a ritual at a tree located in a very sacred location. The entrepreneur, in haste, makes his way to the location and does as he was instructed. Day closes out. He goes to sleep to rest because he's been working very hard and he's traveled a very long distance to do what he needs to do. Very late in the night, he receives a phone call. In a phone call, he hears that the location where he made the offering, the location was on fire. This to the entrepreneur and to various people in the location, they looked at it as a very bad omen. Many people of the entrepreneur's family went to the location to see if they could amend or do a sacrifice and ask for forgiveness. For many, it was the beginning of the end because it is very taboo to cut down trees, let alone set one on a fire. From that moment, it was the end of the relationship between the entrepreneur and his advisor. Months go by. The entrepreneur's son has a dream, and a dream showed him that the entrepreneur would fall from grace. It was a dream that predicted the death of the entrepreneur. we move into the future. One day, the entrepreneur falls unconscious. This never happened prior to his offering. From there, the entrepreneur's health began to degenerate. Within a matter of months, the entrepreneur went from a very healthy individual to a very sick individual. He could barely walk. He could barely talk. His memory began to fade. He had to leave the country of Haiti and travel to another country because the doctors in his country were not wise enough to know what was going on. It was their recommendation that they seek superior help because the technology that they had could not help him. So the entrepreneur, in desperation, went to Europe. With all the technological advancements, they were unable to help this man. He passed away. He left behind a wife and children.